Someone You Should Know. A program about people you know and even more that you don't. Hosted by Stuart Sax, veteran, husband, father, and grandfather. Now, here's your host, Stuart Sax.
Well, welcome everyone to another episode of Someone You Should Know. Got a good one for you today. I promise you, you are going to meet somebody that is just going to blow you away. Now, we are brought to you by our good friend Christine Dean, who is the networking diva. You know everything that anybody could ever want to know about marketing or upping your game on the website, social media. Christine Dean is who you need to have on your team. She's been on my team for a long time. She keeps me centered. She's a producer of this show. She's also a sponsor of this show. Christine Dean, the networking diva. She can connect you with all of the answers that you need to take your business to the next level, way up there. Christine Dean, love you, dear. Well, you know, there's... I liken my guest to a cat because we've always been told that a cat has 9 lives, and you are going to meet a gentleman who has faced danger and death, not once, not twice, but multiple times, and he's here to tell you about it. Gary Pacelli, welcome. Welcome, my friend, to Someone You Should Know.
Great. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
I am so amazed and enthralled at what you have accomplished in your life so far, because your stories, and I'm not going to do a lot of the talking because I want you to share your life and your I guess I have to say tragedies, because they really were kind of tragedies that you were able to overcome. First of all, you are a U.S. Marine, so I thank you for your service, and Semper Fi to you.
Semper Fi, thank you.
Let's go back to your career. You were with the DEA, and I want you to tell the people that are watching and listening, why you decided to go into law enforcement. And then what got you into the narcotics end of the DEA?
Well, I got into law enforcement after I got settled in after the Marine Corps. I was in the Marine Corps Reserve. So once I went through boot camp and infantry school, I was working construction. And as good of a job as it was, I knew that it wasn't something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I had heard that the sheriff was looking for temporary workers to work in the jail. So one day after working road construction, jackhammering, my construction office was 2 blocks away from the sheriff's office. So I figured I'd swing by and set up an appointment with a secretary to, go and give my pitch to him, see if I can get a job, get my foot in the door.
Yeah.
So I walked into the office and I'm covered in cement dust, again, from jackhammering all day. And so I was explaining to the secretary how I'd like to see the sheriff, make an appointment. And I didn't realize the sheriff was actually in his office and the door was open. And he yelled to the secretary, who is that? What does he want? And she said, oh, it's someone here, looking for one of the temporary slots in the jail. So he sent him in. So I walked in, covered in, I looked horrible, and I explained, who I was, and I was trying to get in law enforcement. And, once he heard that, I was in the Marine Corps, he hired me on the spot, but he said I had to work double shifts, and that was customary for temporary workers, but I had my foot in the door, so I took it. That started it. So I just worked up the ranks, and eventually I made detective, and I ended up being assigned to the Drug Enforcement Administration. And that's a story in itself, because that was what an adventure,
Yeah, I mean, basically, you're in a job where you're going after the bad guys, and we will be scrolling Gary's website across the screen, and I invite you to visit it because there's a few great videos on the website. There are also some great photos that are on the website. But so you're in law enforcement and in with the DEA, and you're in the narcotics area. You're looking for the guys that are bringing in the bad stuff that's going on the streets and killing kids. Uh, and so, did you work alone in this? Did you work with a partner? Were you uniformed? Were you undercover?
So we were undercover, and we had a group. There was 8 of us from the sheriff's department assigned, and we had 2 DEA agents. And so I had actually 2 partners because we teamed up in groups of 3, and but we're usually alone. When we're on surveillance, we're in our own cars, and that leads into the story of how we were on surveillance. We had an informant because we work a lot with informants. Most of our cases are through informants. So we had an informant that told us that an individual is coming up from Virginia to pick up a load of cocaine. So it was day 2 of our surveillance, and it was a normal day. We do this all the time. So, you take it for granted, and so we were following them, in and out, from New York City and back into New Jersey. And so we got this crazy order over the radio from our sergeant, and he wanted whoever was behind the target vehicle to pull him over and identify him, if he got close to his hotel. And we never do that because we're in plain clothes. I was in shorts and a sleeveless t-shirt. It was summertime, so we dressed to fit in case we have to get out of our car,
right?
And follow someone on foot. We don't want to stand out. So, you do what you're told, and I happen to be the individual behind the target vehicle. Everybody else had gotten lost or tied up in traffic coming over to George Washington Bridge. So,
gee, that's unusual, right?
Yeah, right. So, he made a U-turn coming around right before his hotel, and I hit my emergency lights because we're an undercover vehicle, so you can't see our lights until we turn them on.
Right.
And, get a little quick chirp of the siren, and he pulled over, and I got out of my vehicle, took my badge out so he knew I was a detective. And I walked up to his vehicle, asked him for his license, and he went to hand it to me with his right hand. So he reached across his body, and when I went to grab it, he brought it in. So now, whether it's maybe it's the summertime, maybe I'm a little complacent, I make a huge rookie mistake, right? And I reach into the vehicle. That's like a big no-no. And but as I did, I saw his foot on the brake, and the vehicle was still in drive. And I looked at him, and he locked eyes with me, and he hooked my arm with his left arm, and he punched the gas, right? So he starts to go, and he's going onto the highway, and I'm running alongside the car, but I know that I can't keep up. There's no way.
Right.
But if I break free, and I probably could pull my arm out, but then I'd fall and get run over by his vehicle. So, in that split second, in my mind, the best thing to do is to dive into the vehicle. So I dove into the vehicle, and I'm now on his lap, and my legs are hanging out of the car, and I look, and he's in the middle lane, but he's heading into the fast lane now. Wow. So I know he's going to crush me like a bug against the divider, and it's just one of those things, and I hear it in my head, really loud, right? Shoot him now, right? And I hear bang, and I'm next thing I know, I'm tumbling down a fast lane, and you know, when things like this happen, like time like slows down, right? It's kind of like a, you know, because
slow-mo in a movie.
yeah, right. You know, and it's all in your mind because, you know, obviously time doesn't slow down. But I remember thinking to myself, like, you know, will I ever stop, you know, tumbling down the highway, you know? So I did come to a stop, and I was on my all fours, you know. I still have my weapon in my hand, and I was looking down though. And when I look up, there's a tractor trailer like bearing down on me, you know? And
Whoa.
you know, and again, like time slows down, right? And I have, yeah, even though it's like a split second, but I have enough time to think, you know, like, what's next? Like a piano going to fall out of the sky, right? Like a cartoon, you know? And I didn't even try to move because there was just no time for me to even react. And at the perfect moment, I get yanked out of the way, you know, and a truck goes right by me, you know? And my partner had shown up, you know, just as I was getting dragged into the highway. So he heard the shot, but he didn't know whether I fired my weapon or if somebody shot me, you know. So he dragged me to the side of the road, and you know, he's like, you know, are you all right, you know? And you know, I'm like furious, you know, like, and I'm just, you know, like, and I'm just like, you know, go get him, because I can't believe that he's still going, you know, and you know, I'm thinking, did I miss him? Like, what? How is this possible, you know? And so my partner did, you know, he started chasing him, and I tried to make my way back to my vehicle, which is probably about 60 yards up the road.
Now, this is after you've tumbled head over heels on the highway a few times. So, I mean, were you injured at all this time?
Yeah, no, I was pretty badly injured, but the adrenaline is so, you know, it's pumping so much, you know.
You're
like,
doing what you were trained to do.
Yeah, and like, you know, I'm bleeding, you know, and I got a concussion, you know, but I just, you know, like, you're focused, right? And you're like driven, you know.
Right.
So I think I have tunnel vision at this point. I'm just getting in my vehicle. I don't even realize that members of, you know, the other guys in the group had started to show up. You know, they had stopped traffic because it's a crime scene now, you know. And you know, I'm unaware of my surroundings, really. And you know, I get close to my vehicle, and I say pretty loudly, you know, and I won't say it here, but you know, I'm going to kill that, you know, pick a word, right?
SOB. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll work, you know. And but as I do it, right, and I look to my right, and there's a, you know, because now I notice that the cars aren't moving, and right next to me there's a vehicle stopped with, you know, a typical family, right? Father, two kids in the back seat, and mother in a passenger seat, and windows roll down. And like, our eyes meet, and she's got this look of complete horror on her face, right? And then I realized, like she's terrified of me because, like, my badge had gotten ripped off me, and you know, so all she sees really is like some bald lunatic walking up the shoulder, bleeding,
in shorts and a tank top.
Yeah, talking to himself with a weapon in his hand, you know. So, but it's, you know, it snapped me back to reality, you know. And I quickly holstered my weapon, and you know, and I got in my vehicle, you know, and I put it in drive, and I took off. I tried to get on the pursuit, you know, and so I went upper level of the bridge, and they had gone lower level, so I never caught up with them. And what happened was they caught up to him at the lower level of the bridge, and he didn't stop. So my partner rammed his vehicle, and another group member had shown up. You know, they were ordering him out of the car, you know, guns out, obviously, get out, go get out of the vehicle. And I didn't see it, but, you know, I was told, though, that they couldn't see inside the vehicle because there was so much blood on the windows, right? And so the door opens a little bit, and then it closes. And it opens and then closes. And they have no idea what this guy's doing, you know, and they're getting like pretty amped up, you know. And finally the door opens and the driver slumps out of the car. You know, he had lost so much blood that he couldn't undo his seatbelt, right? So he falls out of the vehicle, and you know, they quickly they stopped the bleeding and everything, and you know, called for the paramedics, and they came, and you know, and he survived. You know, but I never met up with him. So, but when I got back to the scene, you know, I handed my weapon to my chief because my chief was already there. He was a hands-on guy, so whenever we were doing a job, he was close by. Because like we didn't have any go-between to the sheriff. It was just us, the chief, and the sheriff. And you know, so he ordered me and my partner, Big Lenny, to taken to the hospital. And you know, I was pretty banged up, to say the least.
Now, I read in some of the bio information that you went through a series of surgeries. Is that from this incident? This you know, attempted murder incident, really? Is that what it was, really?
Yeah. So I had 11 surgeries because of this.
From that incident?
Yeah, from this incident. They ended up, yeah. So I had like 6 shoulder operations. Then on the 7th, they replaced my shoulder. Then my deltoid muscle snapped from all the operations, and it ended up down by my elbow. Like it just like balled up, and so I had to pull it up, tie it up, and then I had 2 cages put in my lower spine, and then they topped it off with a wrist surgery. You know, so they ended up retiring me after the 2nd surgery. You know,
now this is all the result of you being thrown out of this car, rolling down the highway, and not knowing that you are that badly banged up. You get up and run to your car to go after this perpetrator.
Yeah, and like I said, it was like all the adrenaline's pumping, you know, and again, like you had said, like your training kicks in right away.
You're in the zone. Yeah,
you turn. You're almost like a robot, really, at that point, you know. But
so now you reach a point where you're going through all these surgeries. You retired from the DEA at that point?
Yeah, they retired me.
Yeah. And so folks, you think, oh, okay, that's a great story. It doesn't end there.
That's actually the beginning.
This guy decides, I need to do something to bide my time and to recover from all these surgeries and everything. And so instead of taking up a bocce ball or or pickleball or something like that, what sport does Gary Pacelli take up?
Skydiving.
Skydiving. Hello. Now you're going to take this battered body of yours and you're going to jump out of airplanes.
So, like what happened was, though, I mean, it is kind of funny when you look at it that way.
What possessed you to say skydiving is for me?
So the way the surgeries happened, I was getting operated on every 4 to 6 months. So it was spread out over years, right?
Yeah.
And I put on like 100 pounds, the pain medicine and all that. It was just a mess, And I was looking at a picture of my niece's high school graduation, and I was looking at my family, and I'm staring at this picture because no matter how hard I try, I cannot recognize the person that's standing next to my wife, right? It's me. You know what I mean? Like, so, it was like somebody hit me in the chest with a sledgehammer, because it really, woke, wow, I went on a mission after that, to get my life back, really, And so over a couple of years, 2.5 to 3 years, I lost weight. I got back in shape, and I was feeling pretty good. And, but I was missing something, though. I was missing that, that camaraderie, right? The adrenaline, the camaraderie, So I remember doing a skydive when I had first got out of boot camp, and I loved it, right? And back then I had said I was going to get my skydive license, but I never did.
Yeah.
So I figured, you know what? I always wanted to do it. I feel pretty good. Now's a great time to do it.
Now's my chance.
Yeah. So
and by the way, folks, if you look over Gary's shoulders, that photo up on the wall, that's him jumping out of a plane. And
Yeah.
so you started in the skydiving, and you also eventually you went into this what I call squirrel diving, because it's a suit, the windsuit, and you may have seen him on. So you start doing this, and I mean, all the great power to you. You decide, okay, now I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get into shape. I'm skydiving. You got multiple dives and all. And folks, I said at the outset of the show, this guy's like a cat. He's got 9 lives, and he's going through them rather quickly. But then there's this one fateful day, and now I want you to tell the people that are watching and listen what happened on that day.
So I had started wingsuiting, like you mentioned, and it is dangerous. It's like adding danger to danger, really, but it still can be done safely, and so I had taken a course and done my supervised jumps and everything. So I was just, I headed down to North Carolina because that was like the first good weather weekend of the spring in 2021. So I got down here.
So this is only about 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, so I had jumped the day before with a bunch of military guys out of Fort Bragg. I was fortunate enough where I was the only fun jumper that was there. And a fun jumper's a guy like me. I'm not in the military. I'm not an instructor or a student. I just jump for fun, right? So there's no way that they were going to put a plane up just for me, right? So I walked into a hangar that I thought was for fun jumpers. I dropped my gear down, and there's a bunch of guys looking at me, so I introduced myself, and they were out of Fort Bragg. They were, and I don't know what they did. I didn't ask, but I have a good idea. And we started talking, and I told them I was, in the Marine Corps. I had been in the Marine Corps, and that I was a retired detective, and we hit it off. So they invited me to hitch a ride on their plane, I was like, wow, that's great. Thanks, And I wasn't wingsuiting, but I was practicing my wingsuit pattern because I had never been to this drop zone, so skydive center. We call them drop zones.
Yeah.
And, so there's a form of skydiving that's called tracking, where instead of falling straight down, if you get in the right body position, you can, go forward. It's like wingsuiting without a wingsuit. It's like it's body surfing, basically.
Yeah.
So I wanted to practice my pattern so I could get the landmarks down, for the landscape. Because in a wingsuit, you're going pretty fast and pretty far, and you could get like carried away and not make it back to the drop zone. So I wanted to, just get a lay of the land. It was a great day, 6 jumps with these guys, and it was perfect, And so the next day I get to the drop zone, and I start to get ready, put my wingsuit on. But as soon as I got there, I had this feeling, right? Like this uneasiness, and it was really, urgent. And for some reason, I couldn't figure out what it was for, and so I suited up anyway. But the suit that I had was a rental suit. Okay. So it wasn't the suit that I had been jumping. The company needed that suit back. So they gave me this other suit, and this other suit was a higher skill level, so it was much faster.
Uh-huh.
And it didn't fit right. It was too tight in my arms, too tight in the shoulders, and it was too short. Okay. And which all played a part in what happens next, So, I have that feeling, and, I just ignore it. And I put I put the wingsuit on, and I get on a plane. I get on first because I'm getting out last, So the whole ride up, about 15 minutes, and you're going to about 14,000 feet. It's almost like 2.5 miles, right? And the whole ride up, I'm nervous, I'm fidgety, and it's just, and then I start to hear like my inner voice, right? That voice, right? Whatever people call it, some people call it your training, right? Or some people call it the universe or God, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter, but you shouldn't ignore it, right? And that's what I did, probably because a little bit of arrogance, a little bit of pride. I had enough jumps at that point, to have that little bit of, cockiness, right? So,
but was there ever a moment that you thought, I don't feel right. There's something wrong. Maybe I should just bypass this jump?
Yes. And, because it was really, in my mind, I'm hearing, don't jump, ride the plane down. Don't jump, ride the plane down. So, I ignore it, right? Because I'm in my mind, I think, I have a reserve parachute, right? So, hey, if there's a problem with I can just get rid of my parachute and go to my reserve, right? So, you think that I can handle anything, I'm trained, right? I should have listened to the voice, right? But I didn't, I shoved it down, and so the light by the door turns red, and the first jumper opens the door. He sets up, turns green. He jumps out, and now every 8 seconds, somebody's exiting the plane, and as they do, I'm sliding down the bench again because I'm in the wingsuit, right? And my last chance to abort that jump, I'm at the edge of the bench, and I don't do it. I stand up, I check my airspace, I see the airport, I jump out, and I immediately go into my wingsuit pattern. And, since the suit was too short, it was pulling my head down. So I was flying on a more exaggerated head down, right? Which means that I'm going super fast on top of a fast suit, So,
Right.
but I had it under control. Everything was under control. It was actually a really great jump. Everything was going great. And, my altimeter starts going off, at 6,500 feet. I set it a little high, and, it's time for me to slow down, pull my parachute, and I set it high so I could slow down enough to not have to rush, but now the suit is it's tight in the shoulders and the arms. So every movement I make, it affects, so when I go to deploy a little bit, I go a little unstable. And as soon as I deploy my parachute, I think you didn't slow down enough. And then I hear this pow, right? The wind hits my parachute and it opens instantly. Okay. Now our parachutes are designed to open slowly.
Right.
This opened, boom, and my head snaps back, and I hear this crunch, and the crunch is my neck breaking. Okay, so yeah, I'm at 5,000 feet, and I hear the crunch, and it's like somebody hit a switch, and this electrical charge goes from my neck all the way down my body to my toes, and as it goes down, my body goes limp. I can't move, and which means I can't grab my toggles, so I can't steer, or slow down.
Arms at this point are useless.
Useless. And the only thing I could move was my head, and I had a tiny bit of movement in my left hand, and so I think no way, right? Like there's no way this thing just happened, right? So I think, all right, just give it a few seconds. You had a jolt, the feeling will come back, I give it like 10, 15 seconds. It doesn't come back, So I instantly knew that I was going to die, right? And, you look around there, 5,000 feet, where I was, there's nothing, there's nothing but trees,
So you are just a limp body falling out of the sky.
Yeah, I have a good parachute, and but that's it, I'm at the mercy of the wind at this point, So my initial
folks, keep in mind what you just heard. He's falling out of the sky, has no use of his arms and his legs, only his head is moving. And this man is sitting in front of us talking about this. So what happens when you get closer to the ground?
Well, so I'm at 5,000 feet when this happens. And
wow, that's a mile up.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So at first I gave up because what am I going to do? Right. I accept my fate. It's over, know, and again, like everybody says, your life flashes before your eyes. Right. And it does.
Again, because you survived this attempt on your life by this druggie and everything, and now you're falling out of the sky with nothing moving but your head.
Yeah. And again, so you give up, right? Because what can you do?
Right.
So
you say your prayers and be thankful for what you had.
Exactly, right? And that's exactly what happened, really, because I honestly felt like a speck of dust floating around up there, and I thought about everything that I'm going to miss and how the world though is just going to keep turning without me. That's the only thing is I'm not going to be here, So it's almost like I was never here, really, outside my little sphere of influence, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very humbling experience, it'll rip the ego right out of you,
I can imagine. Oh,
yeah. And that's exactly what happened, to be honest with you, because it changed my life. Because all your big plans and your plots and what you're gonna, it's gone.
Just flashing past you.
It's like Mike Tyson says, right? Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth, right?
Right.
I just got punched in the mouth, because I had nothing, right? So, this all happens fast too, though, right? Because your mind just works, right? And but then like that fire inside of you like ignites, right? And it's like a little birthday candle, right? And it starts slow, and then that feeling you have of like sadness, and feeling sorry for yourself, that turns to anger now, right? And then as it grows, anger turns to fury, right? And I said to myself, I'm going to die, but I'm going to die fighting. I'm going to die like a warrior with my sword in my hand. I'm not just going to float off on some glorious last ride and see what happens, right? No way.
Right.
So but what can I do though? Again, I'm at so I think to myself exactly that. What can I do, right? So I realized that I had planned my canopy opening in a spot where I knew that I would have the wind at my back, and it would push me towards the airport. And I did that because if I pitched my canopy and say it was tangled and I had to get rid of it, I knew that the wind would at least float that back towards the airport. This way I wouldn't lose it, because it's like $3,000, right, for a canopy, right?
Right.
So I knew that the wind would push me towards the airport. But if I did nothing, I'd be too high, I would just float right past it and end up in the trees anyway. And so I had to find a way to burn off the altitude, right? And I had, maybe like 50 jumps earlier, I learned how to steer my canopy using my body weight. So I could move my head, so I was able to make these like wide 360-degree turns, and it was working, so I was staying within the airport vicinity, right? Because the whole time though, I had this like fear of like floating off into the trees and landing in the trees and being alive, and,
right.
and people not being able to find me, and the birds, right, and squirrels, they get in my suit, right, and would eat me alive, right? I mean, your mind does weird,
Yeah.
So, and then again, like also as I'm making these turns, that voice again, I don't hear voices though. It's like, your inner voice,
Right.
And what I'm hearing is, ditch it into the trees, get it over with, because even if you live, you're paralyzed.
Right.
You know, and that's not living. That's not fair to your wife and kids, you know. And I, you know, I got to be honest with you, like that wasn't a bad idea in that situation, right?
Right.
You know, but honestly, I figured that the crash landing was going to kill me anyway. So why rush it? Because I had you know, so I broke my neck, right? But and it was almost the equivalent of hanging myself a mile high, right? I probably should have never survived that, right? And then my canopy, it flies like 27 to 30 miles per hour. So now if you put like a 5 to 10 mile an hour wind behind you, I would be hitting the ground between 30 and 40 miles per hour with a broken neck. So I thought there's no way that I could survive that. That you know, I just thought it'd be impossible, right? So, you know, I'm doing my thing and I'm just trying to stay disciplined, right? And you know, I didn't say a word, you know, because my GoPro camera was going, and I still I was so, you know, focused on, you know, that I didn't say anything, you know, and so my altimeter in my helmet set for like certain altitudes, you know, for a landing pattern, because we land the same way a plane would land into the wind, you know, and so mine set for 1,200 feet, 600 feet, and 300 feet, you know, so 1,200 feet, you know, it beeps 3 times, beep, beep. And I'm like, all right, you know, but I'm crossing the runway. So I'm already overshooting the landing zone. And I'm like, oh man, you know, I keep trying to do my thing. And then 600 feet now the ground is noticeably bigger now, you know, it's really coming, you know, and I can't stop it, you know. But I catch this breeze out of nowhere, because you know, I have a wind at my back, but now I have a wind that's turning me, right? And it gives me like a 120-degree turn, and now I can get a pretty good idea of around where I'm going to land. And there's a chain link fence there, and there's an above ground pool, right? And not being able to steer, that's a problem, and I can't lift my legs neither. So I'm not going to be able to avoid the fence. So, you know, that final beep, 300 feet, you know, and I know from past jumps that I have 30 seconds before I hit the ground, you know, and, you know, I say in my mind, you know, I say, you know, Jesus, you know, please save me, right? And I'm not a very religious person. I don't go to church. And so, you know, I'm glad I said it though, you know, and boom, I hit the fence, right below my knees. And it flips me over and I smack into the ground, right? And my visor is really tinted. You can see in the picture that it's really dark. And now I'm in the ground, you know, like half, you know, and it's dark and it's so silent, right? I actually think to myself, right? Like, am I dead? You know? And so I try to move. I figure if I'm conscious and I'm dead, hey, maybe I can move, right? You know, I don't know, you know? So I give it a shot. Like, oh man, I can't move. So I must be alive. And I'm in big trouble now, I think, you know, because honestly, I did not want to, I did not want to survive that, because I didn't even want to think about what it would be like being a quadriplegic, you know, because I already feel like I'm like my body's a coffin and I'm locked inside it, right? So I feel like really small, locked inside my own body. It's horrible. It's a terrible feeling, you know? So, you know, there I am, right? But I figure, you know what? I got to have internal bleeding or broken bones, something, you know? So I'm just going to lay here and see what happens, you know?
And again, the only thing that can move is your head.
My head. And, you know, so now the military guys that I jumped the day before, they knew exactly where I was supposed to be. And I wasn't where I was supposed to be. So they looked up at binoculars and they saw that my arms were dangling. So they jumped in a truck with some staff members from the drop zone. And they were there within a minute, you know, because like they followed me, right? And I ended up crash landing directly across the street from the drop zone. So, you know, it literally was like the house, the backyard I was in, street, the drop zone. So, which, oh man, I couldn't have been more, in a better position at this point.
Yeah. I was hoping to cover your entire life on this show, and we haven't even gotten halfway there. There is so much more to share with the people that are watching and listening. Can we schedule another show? Have you come back, because we now are going to go through a recovery process with you, and all of this, folks. I will tell you, go to the website and you get some information. But Gary has written a book, a very appropriately named "Not My Time," because obviously, as I said at the outset of the show, this is a cat who is living multiple lives, and what this picture right here, number one, that's the drug bust that he was involved in. But over on the right, Gary has worked his way back from being a quadriplegic, to the point where we're watching him on the screen, sitting in a chair and moving his arms, if you haven't noticed. So he has gotten that feeling back. But there's a story that I want him to share, and we're frankly just ran out of time for this show. But can we schedule another show, because I want to go through your recovery process and then talk a little more about the book and the other parts of your life that need to be told.
Absolutely, that'd be great. I would love that.
So folks, visit the website gpacelli.com. Get familiar. I'm going to schedule another show with Gary, and we will come on and we'll do part 2. That's all I can say. Because this guy is a hero. Because of the mental ability that he had to be falling motionless out of the air. And I think anybody watching and listening to this show would agree. How the hell could that happen? Because you were to kind of put a spin on an old phrase, you were a dead man falling, and you survived. And there is a reason for that survival. And I think it's because of the kind of man you are. And I want to tell the rest of the story. So will you come back?
Absolutely. I'd love it. I would love it.
All right. Well, then we'll wrap up Gary Pacelli part 1, and we'll schedule another part, and we'll come back and tell as Paul Harvey used to say, the rest of the story. So that'll do it for another edition of Someone You Should Know. Go out and make it a great day, and come back and visit again with Gary Pacelli. Be well, my friend, and we will talk with you again real soon.
Great. Thank you so much.
Someone You Should Know.